Hi there, you're watching News9 and this is yet another edition of the Weekly Brief. And joining me on this telecast, I have Rakesh Khar, Editor English Cluster for News9 and our Editor International TV9 Network, R. Sridharan. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. Well, if there's a song that would be sung potentially for the new mayor-elect in New York, that would be Taylor Swift's Welcome to New York, wouldn't it? Well, New York City has gone ahead and cast its vote and the results are out, and it has elected its first Muslim and its first South Asian mayor. We have Mamdani all set to take the mayor's office soon. So gentlemen, let's actually start about what really happened in the newsroom. And what happened in the newsroom was the overnight counting of votes at around 9 o'clock in the morning declared Zohran Mamdani as the mayor-elect of New York. Well against the Trump tirade of calling him a communist, and his socialist policies seem to have appealed to New Yorkers. Sri, let's begin by understanding what really happened in New York.
So, Karthik, if you look at New York as a city, one of the things that people have been grappling with in New York is basically a sclerotic political system, which hasn't been very responsive to the needs of the younger and the poorer people. Okay. And the costs in that city have really gone out of kilter. I mean, if you're making, let's say, about 100,000, you're among the poor people in the city. Yeah. And a one-bedroom apartment costs you $3,500. Childcare costs are like high. Insurance, taxes are among the highest, in the state, in the United States. So there are a lot of factors which led people to ask for at least someone who promises newer things. Whether Mamdani will be able to deliver on a whole range of promises he's made to people, which is like, subsidized ration, free ride, child support, all kinds of things. Whether he's actually able to do it is something we'll discuss later in the conversation. Absolutely. Yeah, but I think New York wanted a change, and they saw a 34 fresh-faced mayor as their best candidate compared to all the others who were in the fray. Absolutely. So, 34-year-old, a youngster, somebody who likely appeals more to the Gen Z population in the city. And of course, I mean, you're talking about 100,000 USD as an average income level, or actually a below average income level. That compared to, Indian salaries is obnoxiously high, isn't it? But I don't think that's really the moot point here. The moot point is something that Sri touched upon, that subsidized healthcare, ration stores across the city, subsidized ration, subsidized food, free healthcare, free childcare, free bus rides. All of this needs money, and Trump is threatening that he's going to potentially stop federal funding to New York City. So how is the money actually going to come into the system?
Absolutely, Karthi. I think the Mamdani phenomenon is still evolving, and we really don't have a clear view of how is he going to navigate his own existence, because his identity, apart from being a Muslim and an Asian origin, now identity is the rise of the socialist democracy. Okay. So if he is truly to be the emblem of that, then he has to deliver on all these promises. I just want to capture Mamdani phenomenon in 4 or 5 quick bullet points, and then we'll come to how he is going to manage it.
Do you have an acronym for it or not yet?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
For a change, I'm going acronyms a little bit of a race.
Sure.
First and foremost, for a change, an Indian origin, that to a Muslim, not occupying the boardroom.
Fair to call him Indian origin, technically?
I mean, parentage is mixed.
Yes, definitely Indian.
Technically, we can quibble over.
Just because you're born in Uganda, you don't become African suddenly.
Right.
Sure, but never lived in India. Would he have any understanding of India?
Look at his speech, the way he went back to India, right from Nehru to Dhoom Machale. So they can't be more Indian than that, to my mind. So that's what matters, the optics. Okay. Number one, we have a guy who is with these kind of origins, even if we disagree, who is not in the boardroom but is in the real corridors of power. All right. Number two, he is someone who is given a new hope and expectation about socialist democracy. He's got a big flip. So, at the center of polarized debate in the political framework, we have the whole world, that section, waiting endlessly for the extreme right to fall somehow. Okay. The inevitability of the extreme right to fall is something that's right there in the horizon in India and all parts of the world, where there is an anti-right sentiment. So let's talk about that anti-right sentiment, and we'll come back. Okay, sure. Third bullet point is that look at the geopolitical and the electoral, the dance of democracy, as we call it. An issue which is no longer, which is global and limited to Gaza and Israel, has become central to a city's local elections. Sure. That is the power. Maybe America traded, moral compass with strategic heft, but the end result is Mamdani. All right. And, the fifth point is that universality of New Delhi to New York, of equality for better life. That's very, very important. And also concentration of the rich in a certain pockets. That's what we are facing in India also, that, that anger and angst against those concentrated in the capital. So that is reflected in the vote bank. And finally, one silver lining to answer your first question is that we are reading the fine print, but to my mind, he cannot impose taxes on the corporates.
Okay.
That is not in his constitutional realm.
Okay.
It's in the realm of the Trump administration.
Right.
So that creates an opening to my mind for him to talk to corporates and corporates to talk to him, and then probably get into the funding zone for areas which are extremely genuine.
All right. So I want to just digress for just a minute, and then we'll come back to Zohran Mamdani. And this is to do with the Supreme Court, which is evaluating the validity of Trump tariffs. So at a time when there is so much discord within the US economy, at a time when one doesn't know whether eventually the Supreme Court in the US is going to strike down or let Trump go ahead with his tariffs, and you see a completely different thought process, call it socialist, call it, in Trump's language, communist, call it a populist sentiment when it comes to cost of living becoming cheaper and quality of life getting better. Are there parallels that we can draw with the Bihar story? Because, all manifestos across the board, no matter whether it's a country going into elections or a state, or in the case of US, a city going into elections, at the end of the day, it seems that all politicians want to do is offer freebies, and then those freebies are never delivered.
I think, Karthik, that's the biggest threat, I think, to democratic countries where economies and where people are feeling their dreams are not being fulfilled. So I wrote about it for News9 yesterday, saying that how the rise of Mamdani at one level also indicative of the problem or the broken system of capitalism and also democracy, where people also feel that, they don't have, any responsibility as far as their well-being, their prosperity is concerned, that it's the government's job to make sure that they are like rich and they're affluent and they are taken care of. I don't think that's clearly quite what, will happen, because ultimately as citizens, we need to take care of our own well-being. We have to educate ourselves, and we have to work.
New York City is not alone. In fact, we've seen a departure even in New Jersey. We are seeing a departure in some other cities in the US as well. So I want to understand, do you see this as a trend? Do you see this as, I don't know if anti-Trump is too big a term to use right now, but do you think that that double-engine sarkar in the US is not what people want? They actually want their cities to function for their benefit, no matter how the center operates. And Mamdani's sort of, coming into the mayor's seat, does it mean anything for India per se? Because, I mean, beyond his just inherited Indian origins, does he mean anything for India? Because there's a lot of excitement about the fact that he hails from Indian origins.
I don't frankly care too much about his Indian background, because ultimately he is there to serve the people of New York and the Americans there and the people there. But I think what happened with Mamdani is that he caught a certain wave. Luckily for him, the federal shutdown was happening. People were unemployed. When you talk about, the victories in Virginia and all that, the governors came because, there was a lot of anti-government sentiment. Mamdani also was able to capitalize on this whole sentiment that there's a political system which has been there for a long time, which really doesn't care about the Aam Aadmi, the poor, the young. So I think he was able to capitalize on that. But earlier you asked Rakesh about, whether he has the money to actually do what he said. Actually, if you look at it, New York City as a metropolitan India is probably one of the richest, cities in the world. The economy there is about some $2.4 trillion, just that economy. But Mr. Trump accounts for 6% of the budget.
Real estate?
No,
the budget.
6% of the grants come from the federal thing. And Mamdani has to look at the New York governor, Kathy Hochul, also for money. So unless he's able to present a convincing plan and also get on some sort of even keel with Donald Trump, I think he will not have the money to execute any of the plan that he's promised people. So I think the Mamdani honeymoon could end very quickly, Karthik.
All right.
But that doesn't end the expectation in India particularly of a Gen Z hero who is wedded to so-called socialism. So you're right in that sense. That expectation and anticipation, or just a wishful thinking, is right there on the horizon.